Hello, ladies. Thank you for being here. I am with none other than Miss Rabia and Miss Marci. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing good.
Yeah, good. You anything exciting so far? Eat some gluten? Nah, just kidding.
Loads of it.
Fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, how you guys doing with that? Honestly, are you finding it that it's hard to be gluten free, or do you find yourself slipping up every now and then, like eating your chicken nuggets? Or did you tell me you were doing that at one point, right?
I was, and even now, like I'll be really honest. Yes, it's hard, but I feel different. There's like a marked difference between when I eat gluten and when I don't.
Yeah.
It's just hard though because it's like I want a croissant, but it's like
Well, you know the
not the
consequences
same.
if you do that, right?
Right, exactly. I know it, and then I have to like think about it. I'm like, okay, is it really worth feeling like shit for a couple of days, or just I'm better off without it. Most of the time I'm better off without it.
Yeah.
So, there is such a difference, and it's just, yeah.
How about you, Marcy? What's your relationship with that right now?
I have been gluten-free, really like AIP for, I want to say over 5 years.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like, it doesn't even bother me at all. Like gluten is the one thing, gluten and actually nightshades for some reason are the one thing that like I avoid like the plague, and I really have no problem doing so. I mean, it's interesting, like there will be things on AAP that I shouldn't eat, like nuts, dairy, and sometimes I'll let those things slip in a little bit because I don't notice that much of an effect from it, but I don't even touch gluten. Like it literally scares me because I mean, I know I've done, even before meeting you, and I've been working with other doctors and I've done some research on my own, and from what I heard, it can take the gut up to 6 months to heal from a gluten exposure. So I was like, yeah, no, I've done way too much work to set myself back that much,
Shit, yeah, it's very true. It's scary, right?
So yeah, the gluten for me is easy. And I'm at the point now where I don't even really like care about it. So, when I see other people eating stuff that I used to eat, I mean, yes, like someone posted in the group the other day, like, oh, if you could eat anything, what would it be? And I was like, well, cereal and donuts. So I guess I do miss it, but it's not hard for me to avoid it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you just become acclimated to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Cool, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for being here. And really, I think the whole intention with this, obviously, as you know, was to kind of talk about your experience, well, your circumstances before you even entered my world, right, knew about me, and your experience with the disease and what you've done with doctors, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and kind of like the crazy emotional roller coaster, I suppose, that you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Robbie, do you want to touch on that a little bit in the most like
Yeah,
concise way
sure.
possible? Yeah.
Yeah, so my experience was that I had irregular periods since puberty, so since about age 12. And when I was in my late 20s, I went to a doctor for it finally, and she just straight away put me on the pill. So I was on the pill for 6, 7 years, and of course it normalized my period. But then when I got off of it, in order to try to have a baby, it was just haywire all over again. There was a point where I was going 3 months, 3 months without a period, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. So that's pretty much what I was dealing with. So it's always been irregular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then with Hashimoto's, of course, right?
yes.
So how would you,
So
yeah.
so yeah, then on top of that, found out that I had hypothyroid and Hashimoto's, which kind of made sense. It explained a lot of things that I was dealing with, particularly with the fatigue and like a hair, skin issues, being really dry. Also with, I guess, some depression that I didn't realize that I was dealing with. So all of those rolled up into like a big ball of problems, really.
Uh-huh.
But and my approach was, when I found out about all these things, at least it was actually kind of a relief, because like I knew what was going on. So I was like, oh, okay, this is the problem, or these are the problems. So let's figure out how to best address them.
Mm-hmm. And how would you say your emotions were? What were you feeling every day?
Before
Yeah.
I figured out what was going on, um, I think I felt overwhelmed because like also before I found out all of this stuff, like there was a period of my life where my life just went through upheaval, right? I'd gotten married, I moved across the country, my job ended, I was unemployed, and we were struggling financially too. So it was just like a lot of stress on top of everything. So I think all of that stress kind of manifested itself into all of these problems. So there was a lot of stress, probably some depression, like I mentioned, sadness because I was homesick and I missed home um, in California, where I'm originally from. So a lot of like, I guess, turmoil and uncertainty as
Yeah.
well.
And so really, what did you end up doing initially? Like to try to combat this Hashimoto's?
Um, Initially, it was just what my doctor. I lucked out kind of with my doctor because she was thorough in the labs that she ran. She wasn't just like, here's your, two thyroid level, like whatever they commonly test for, and that's it. Okay, bye. She ran a few tests. So, but still, the outcome was that I was put on Synthroid. And her approach was, let's try the lowest effective dose so that we don't overload, not give you more than you need, and metformin. So I went on Synthroid and metformin. I also had high cholesterol, so I had to go on a cholesterol medication as well. That also runs in my family, and I didn't know that until I was diagnosed. So I followed that. I did all those things. I didn't really do much else, and I didn't really feel massive improvement, to be honest.
Mm,
It was still kind of the same. It didn't really change much.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. How about you, Marcy?
So my first autoimmune disease that I was diagnosed with was psoriasis when I was a junior in college.
Yeah.
And up until that point, like I felt fine from what I remember. I was like a normal college kid and having fun, partying. Like I felt okay. And then one day I woke up and I was like covered in these red lesions that looked like the chicken pox. And I was like, what the hell is this? And so that, went on for a little while, and I went to try and get diagnosed by the health center at my school, who said it was poison oak. Um, sorry. And then that it didn't go away with, cortisone cream. So I finally went home to a dermatologist, and he took one look at it, and he's like, oh yeah, you have psoriasis. Let's just, confirm it via biopsy. And so that's what it came back as. And I got thrown a prescription for a topical steroid, and he said, yeah, I don't really know if it's going to get any better, if it's going to get worse. I can't tell you, but all I can tell you is you'll have it for the rest of your life. So I was so scared because, here I am, a young girl who obviously, was caring about her appearance and all that. And I have this like unsightly rash all over my body. And thinking that was like what my life was going to be. So at that time, I didn't know any better. I didn't realize that steroids, suppress your immune system and all that. But I took them, and it definitely like made my skin really thin and kind of white. So I realized pretty quickly, like, this is not what I want. And then I started to do some more research on my own, and I realized that like the biologics that they could give me and other things were, really bad. So I decided to try to, just manage it on my own. And I was fortunate enough that after that first flare, it pretty much went away. And I would have like a few spots pop up here and there. But I would say, I don't know, maybe a couple years after that is when I really started to notice other symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, GERD, so acid reflux, which was manifesting like panic attacks. So I had like a lot of heaviness in my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe, which is super scary. I was getting numbness and tingling, and going to like doctor to doctor to doctor to try to figure out what was going on. Like I diagnosed myself with pretty much every chronic illness in the book. And but still I really like didn't have any answers. They're like, oh, you're fine, oh, it's stress. Like I was getting a few things figured out, but finally I discovered functional medicine and went to a doctor who also diagnosed me with Lyme disease. And at that point, he ran my thyroid levels, and it just showed that I was hypothyroid. At that time, I didn't have any antibodies. And we were under the assumption that it was from my lifestyle in college where I overexercised, I greatly restricted my diet, I was totally underweight. So I just kind of thought it was like a quote unquote metabolic damage issue. And it wasn't until a couple years later when I was actually working with somebody else to deal with some hormone issues that the antibodies finally presented themselves. And they've only been there once. Ever since then, I've never, had them come back, but obviously like Hashimoto's, is there. So that's kind of my story. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah. So what did you try when you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's besides medication?
Well, I didn't really try anything different because I had already been doing all of the other stuff working with my first functional medicine doctor. So really the only thing that we tried was like altering my medication. So I was on Cytomel, which I think is pretty much just T3, correct? And then I went to Natrethroid, and that, I guess that managed it because my antibodies went away after that. But we were also trying to get my hormones, more in balance as well. And I was doing some really weird stuff like seed cycling and all of that, which did absolutely nothing. But, for the most part, it was, working on gut health, working on stress management, that kind of thing.
So why did you feel like what you were doing wasn't working and helping you get your Hashimoto's into remission?
Because I felt like I was starting to develop like maybe other autoimmune diseases as well, which, as we know and you've talked about many times, is very common. If you have one, you're likely to have another. And what's interesting is I didn't really know that up until a couple of years ago. And there's this woman who calls herself the Paleo Mom, and she wrote what I describe as like the autoimmune Bible. And I met her in person about 4 years ago at her book signing. And we were talking, and she asked me what autoimmune disease I had. And I said, I have psoriasis. And she said, oh, okay, but what's your primary autoimmune disease? I said, psoriasis. Like, that's the only one I know I have. And she said, no, probably not. Usually psoriasis comes along with either Hashimoto's or celiac. And at that point, I didn't want to hear it, right? So I was a little triggered because I knew that I already had hypothyroidism. And I was like, well, oh no, lady, I don't have Hashimoto's. But apparently, I probably did. So there was a lot of fear there because I knew that, okay, now I probably have two. I was having some other issues that were pointing to the fact that I might possibly have other ones. That has, I think, since been ruled out. But yeah, for me, it was just totally a fear-based thing that I was just going to keep developing more.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're just, yeah.
Yeah. No.
You're scared, feared, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And that went on for about how long in total? If I remember correctly, it was.
Well, it's been, okay, I'm 34 now. So it's been 13 years total that I've been dealing with this. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then maybe like 2 years since I've been diagnosed with I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's last February because my hair started falling out in clumps. And that had never really been an issue. Like, I have a lot of like really thick curly hair. So it's like, yes, I would kind of shed, but this was different. It's like I would run my fingers through my hair and literally like clumps would fall out. And I kind of knew at that point what that probably meant. So I had her, run the thyroid labs again, and sure enough, that's when the antibodies presented.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of wow. So for a lot of women, they are diagnosed with a disease or multiple diseases, right? And sometimes, they multiple doctors and obviously not getting answers, which seems like, is kind of what happened with you guys, right? Not getting any equal answers, right?
Yep.
And so for a lot of women, they would stay where they are and kind of like just wallow in their pity and play the victim, right? So what was the main motivation, drive for you to not do that and actually rise to the occasion and actually figure out a solution to put in a motion? Start with you, Rabia.
I forgot who said this. It was probably either Jill Coleman or Danny J. One of them was like, you get at a certain point where you're just tired of your own bullshit. you
Yeah.
know, you're like, you're tired of that. Like, I'm tired of this, right? For me, mainly, it was just like, I think the impetus for just going to the doctor and getting all of this like diagnosed really was just being tired of being tired. I think I told you when we first started working together, like I was so fatigued that I would go to work, come home, take like a 2 hour nap, and then, wake up for when my husband came home. And then I'd be like, all right, cool. I'm like ready to go to bed again, you
Yeah.
know? And to me, it was just, and I kind of like got this reputation that I like to take naps. I like napping anyway, but that was just ridiculous. So that was just like, there's something really wrong here. I'm not normal. And there needs to be, I need to find out what's going on. And I think, like I said earlier, finally finding out what was going on was a relief, because it's like, okay, there's actual reasons, and it's not just me being weird. It's like there is something physically happening in my body that is contributing to me feeling this way.
Mm.
And even just in general, I try to keep the mindset that there are certain things that I can control, and whatever's in my control, I will try to do what I can to, do what is best for me. There's things that are outside of my control, like I can control like what I eat and drink, but sometimes my body's not going to respond the way that I want to. So it's like, all right, let me figure out what else is going
Mhm.
on. So it was just, yeah, just basically being tired of being tired, and tired of still stuck in this like things happen to me um narrative, which quite honestly, sometimes it still pops up in my head like, oh, woe is me. But it's like, you know what? No, like I have a lot more control over things than I realize. And it's also just taking stock of those things. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, what can I actually do? Um, and what is outside my control? And the things that I can actually do something about, I should do something about.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Marcy? What was like, I don't even know if I know. What was the main impetus for you to want to get a solution to this and stop like, being where you are?
I was sick of feeling like shit all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it took up, I mean, here's the thing. I know of a lot of people who have the issues that I have. So, Lyme disease, multiple autoimmune diseases, and they really can't function. They can't live their life how they want to live. Some are like bedridden. They have to have other people take care of them. They can't work out. They can't work. And I did not want that for my life. I've been pretty fortunate, knock on wood, that despite everything that I'm dealing with, I'm still able to live a very, normal life. So I wasn't feeling perfect all the time, but I've always been able to do the things that I wanted to do. Like I can still train pretty hard. I can keep up a job. It never has really impacted my like relationship. Well, let me get back to that. My friendships, like I was able to be social and whatnot, but I just never wanted it to get to the point where I couldn't do those things and I had to rely on other people to take care of me
Mhm.
because I'm a very independent person. But the other impetus was, and Jay, you and I have talked about this many times, my my first marriage fell apart because of it. And even though I didn't need my husband to take care of me physically or financially, I definitely think that I needed that emotional support. So I was constantly fixated on my issues. I would talk about them all the time. I would worry about them all the time. I would spend hours on the internet, like going down rabbit holes, on forums, trying to, connecting with other people, trying to figure out what was wrong, like going to doctor. And then, now I can totally see why that would be really draining on a spouse. And so, yeah, my husband came home one day and was like, I don't want to be married to you anymore. I don't want to have to take care of somebody for the rest of my life. And that was a pretty big wake up call. Here I thought that I was managing things pretty well, but apparently I was making the other people in my life miserable.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And I never wanted to get to the point where somebody else would feel that way as well.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy how that can happen. It's like we don't realize what our actions or lack of action can do or impact other people, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting though, because it wasn't for my lack of action. At that point, I was spending, tons of money going to all these doctors. I was doing everything that I thought I needed to be doing, but there were still some missing pieces. And yeah, so I wasn't fully better, and that's what I wanted, was like complete remission, to feel like a normal person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Wow. So when you guys, came across me, like, what was it about me? Like, was it my glowing smile, my beautiful complexion? Not really. Like, what was it about me that was like, hey, maybe he knows what he's doing. Maybe he has a better answer for me. Like, what was going through your head?
I mean, I'll start. So I found you on Instagram through Jade Tita. Um, and I have a lot of respect for Jade. And so I was kind of like, okay, if Jade can vouch for this guy, then, he must know what he's talking about. And then I started to listen to your testimonials. I started to, listen to your message, read your words, all of that. And I realized that you really did know what you were talking about. And then I think for me, I was still really struggling with hormonal issues. So amenorrhea for a long time. And I was hearing about all of your clients who were getting their period back. So that was super enticing for me. And it's something that no matter how many doctors I have worked with, I was still continuing to struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was pretty much, I think that was it. Because I kind of felt like I had some other things under control. Like I was feeling pretty good for the most part. I did want to get a little better handle on the Hashimoto's and just make sure that that was, in remission or, just kind of like stable, but also for the hormonal imbalances primarily.
Yeah. How about you, Miss Rabia? Yeah. Are you on mute? You're on mute. Hey, you're on mute, Rabia.
Oh, I thought I unmuted myself. Just kidding. I found you through Tanner Base.
Oh yeah.
Because I was talking to him. This was a couple of years ago, and I think I finished up training with somebody else, and I was like, I'm not seeing results. I don't know what's going on. And then around about that time, like I'd also found out that I had the Hashimoto's and the PCOS and all that. So he recommended you, and then I just got in touch. And I think while I was waiting for your response, I looked up either your Twitter or just your website. And honestly, at first I was like, I don't know. Like, who is this guy? I was like, who is this guy? And like in my other testimony video, I was like this burly looking dude. Like, all right, what's he gonna tell me about like women's issues?
Kills me so much every time.
But at the same time, I was like, okay, my regular medication is not working the way that I hoped it would. This person clearly has done a lot of studies, and you've studied the nutrition and medical aspect of it. And then I started reading some of the articles that you had. I don't remember if I read any testimonials. I think I did, but I don't remember. But yeah, it was kind of like a leap of faith, sort of, because I trusted Tanner, and then I wanted to find a better solution than just taking metformin and Synthroid for the rest of my life. And I may still have to take them for a long time, but at the same time, like I just wanted a more effective route. So yeah, that's how I found you.
So, in your opinion, like retrospectively looking now, like what were the major components or factors in what we did together that really made the biggest change for you?
For me, the biggest change I think was a lot of times, like I would feel overwhelmed with all the stuff that I would have to do, whether it was like diet or exercise or all of that. It's a lot to do at once, and it's a lot to manage and when you're struggling with a lot of things, right? So it's like, oh crap, now like I have to take care of this on top of my job and my family and everything else. But I think the one thing that really sticks out for me is when you had me do the calendar with like cross off everything that you did today, right? Like the wins, the little wins. And like those little wins add up to something bigger. And I think that helps a lot in terms of shifting the mindset, right? It's like, oh, okay, even if I don't do every single thing, I can still at least be confident that I knocked out a majority or like more than I thought I did. When you start taking stock of all of the the tasks or whatever you have to deal with. So that concept of little wins and just making sure that you acknowledge those helped a lot,
Yeah,
in terms of feeling like you've accomplished something and you're not overwhelmed with all of the things that you need to do.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Marcy? I never asked you about that.
Yeah. So for me, I think it was more, well, it was a couple things. We really started to address my gut health again, which I think I thought that I was doing everything that I needed to do, but there were some things that I was probably neglecting that you focused on a little bit more. And, with my issue, because, psoriasis is a skin condition, I can clearly see what's going on, right? Like if I have lesions that pop up, it's like, okay, gut health is out of whack. Whereas I think, some autoimmune diseases are a little more silent. It's like, yes, you have those symptoms where, make brain fog, fatigue, all of that, but you can contribute that to, oh, I didn't sleep enough last night, or, oh, I'm really stressed, or, oh, I worked really hard in the gym. For me, I guess the good thing about my condition is that it is visible. So I can tell when something is not where it needs to be. Um, so yeah, working on the gut health for sure. And then also one more thing that I have is Epstein-Barr virus. And I had been, diagnosed with that, gosh, 8 years ago, maybe, with the first doctor that I worked with.
Yeah.
And no doctor since then has even tried to touch it. So you were of the mindset that, or the belief that may really be causing me some issues and possibly, aggravating the conditions that I have. And so you got to work right away treating that as well as the Lyme disease.
So, so Marcy and Rabia, like, how would you describe your changes now compared to where you were, like, say, a year ago? Like, what's been the biggest change for you?
So I'll start. For me, it was the mindset. I'm definitely feeling better, but I think more than anything, I now have the belief that I am not destined to get more autoimmune diseases. I'm not destined to live a life where I don't feel good and I feel as though I have to put things on the back burner because I'm not feeling well, which was something that kind of used to happen. It's like, oh no, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't, like, take this risk or try to, build my business forward because, I'm not feeling great or whatever it may be. So yeah, just the overall mindset, less fear, because yeah, last year at this time, I was really, really scared that I was just going to continue to get more sick.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's been the biggest change, is really having that belief that if I do the right things and I take care of myself and I have the belief that I can heal and that I'm a healthy person and I see that myself that way, that I can be. Because when you live your life constantly worrying and feeling sorry for yourself, it's like that's what manifests. It almost makes you feel even worse. And I think that creates a lot of inflammation in your body and does stuff that, yeah, because your thoughts are very powerful, right? So if you believe that you're sick, if you believe that you're never going to get better, then that is what your body is going to continue to do. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And kind of what I've seen for myself, right?
Yeah.
So the more I think about it, the more I worry about it, the more I focus on my illness, the worse I feel.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Rabia? What's been the biggest change for you that you've seen?
I think, yeah, it's just kind of along the same lines as Marcy, where it's like a mindset thing. I definitely noticed a difference if I succumb to feeling like, um, that, the stress is such a big driver, and all of these things that are happening in my life are just happening to me. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of it is just, it's under our own control. Um, to be very honest, I'm still, uh, how do I put it? Not coming to terms, but just learning how to manage this, like having Hashimoto's and both PCOS.
Mm.
PCOS, like I feel like I don't have to worry about it anymore, surprisingly. And like I said, since I was 12, that's just been my reality. And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what it is.
Mm.
And then I was worried about being able to have kids, but and all that. And that was also something on the back of my mind, like, what if I can't have kids? But I think that is definitely a possibility for us now, and it's empowering in the sense that I took control of what I could do, and I fixed that. Um, using the right guidance and the right help and the right information, and that was so key in that
Yeah.
it wasn't just something that I had to be on the pill for. And then if I wasn't on the pill, then I was doomed to have these weird cycles where I don't know what's going on. That is like a tangible data, like backed up by data change that I can see and I can feel it too. Um, and I remember like when I was growing up, there would always be these girls who would be like, "Oh, I know when my period is coming, and I know how long it's going to be." And I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know that. What do you mean, you know? And now I feel that way. I was like, all right, yeah, it's coming. I know when it's going to come. I know how long it's going to be, what it's going to feel like, and that's what it is. I thought that was something that only happened if you're on the pill, and that's not the case. Um, and it's funny because once I started learning all this stuff about Hashimoto's and autoimmune diseases, like I said, autoimmune diseases run in my family. Like my uncle has Hashimoto's, my mom has psoriasis. And I keep telling them, I'm like, guys, you need to do these things to feel better. It's not just like putting, the steroid cream on your psoriasis patches or just
Mhm.
taking your Synthroid. There's more that you can do to feel better.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are ready to hear that, and sometimes they're not. But I just try to be. I mean, and granted, I have like my slip ups where I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, and like I said, I feel it. I totally feel the difference when I follow the guidelines that are there for people with Hashimoto's, and trust in which you've told me to follow versus when I don't. It's like, oh, right, that's why I was doing what I was doing is because I feel better and I don't want to feel like crap. So let's stick with not feeling like crap.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's like the biggest difference that I see, and just knowing, your body's pretty good at telling you when something is wrong. And I feel like in my case, like I feel like I'm more in tune with it, where it's like, oh, this is what's making me feel bad, and this is what I can do to fix it. So, um, yeah, that's definitely the change. And then I can see where the stressors are, or where the external influences are on how I feel. Like if there's more
Mhm.
stress in my life, I will feel worse. If I don't take care of myself, I will feel worse. If I eat the things I'm not supposed to, I'll feel worse. It's not just in isolation anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. So, what would you say, like, if there was somebody in the streets who you discovered has an autoimmune disease, like, what sort of message would you say to them? Like, because you guys have invested in your health and seen the value in doing so. Like, what sort of like message would you convey to someone else who's going through, who has been where, who is where you used to be?
I
My
would go
go
ahead.
on. Sorry.
So, um, just in my experience in working with you, Justin, is just I feel like anytime I hear of somebody who has this issue, I'm like, hold up, I know somebody who can help you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you who can help you. Um, it's just it can seem daunting, and I remember feeling like that too when I first started working with you. Like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. But then, it was one of those things. It's like money will come and go, but you have your body for the rest of your life, right? You have your body and your health and all that. That is what you will have for the rest of your life. And if you're not comfortable or fully functional in that one vessel that will carry you through the rest of your life, like what life are you going to live, right? um,
Mm.
Similar to Marci, I've seen people who are kind of like incapacitated by their autoimmune diseases. Like I have another friend who, if she gets hit with like a flare up, she's just in bed, and she has 3 kids on top of that. Like I don't even have kids yet, so I can't imagine what that would do to like a family to know that your mom is suffering, and like she wants to be there for you but she can't. And of course she feels that way too, where it's like, okay, well, I'm down and out and I don't know what to do. But long story short is just like the investment for you to live a better life in the long run and to feel good and not run down and not tired and not be experiencing flare ups on your skin or other conditions. I think that's well worth it. And to take care of like the one quote unquote house that you will always have is your body,
Mhm.
versus not, because then it's just going to fall apart and be a wreck. And you're not going to feel good living in a house like that. So why not take care of it now while, it's just like a little leak in the faucet rather than the entire plumbing is just
Mhm.
busted, to use that analogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of go off of what she just said is really you have to take action now. You can't keep waiting, because if you don't do the things that you need to do to start managing your disease, to start, lowering the inflammation, all of that, I mean, I have to admit, like, things are just going to get worse. Your body doesn't just get better by you continuing to do what you've always been doing, because obviously that's what got you into this situation, right? So it's really taking the action now and not putting it off any longer. And what Rabia said, that yes, that may be spending money, and it definitely is an investment, but it is the best investment that you can make, not only for yourself, but also for the people around you, for your husband, your kids, your friends, your family, all of that, because your issues do not only affect you, they also affect the people in your life. And you may not always realize it, but I think that there is an emotional toll it takes on those people. So yeah, it's not fair to yourself. It's not fair to anybody else for you to stay in your comfort zone. And it does require you getting out of that comfort zone, doing things that you may not want to have to do, that are hard, that are uncomfortable, that are different than, what is normal to you, but it's what you have to do. And you will see that, it really does pay off. So take action now. Don't wait another day, because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I got to say.
I'm going to ask you, Robbie. I mean, have you found that you getting a handle of your situation has been a major benefit to everyone around you, like your husband, your other family, your friends, coworkers? Like, you find like your relationships with everybody's improved since then?
Yeah, I think so. I think because my energy levels were so low before, it was just kind of like, nah, I don't feel like doing anything. Um, and I think the depression aspect of Hashimoto's was like really affecting us, where there was like a lot of factors involved into it, but it was just manifesting as like depression and being sad a lot. Um, where I think that's significantly improved, and I think our relationship because of that has improved. And I think also being able to explain that there is a condition which is affecting me and sometimes it will flare made my husband understand a little bit more, and he was able to come with, to that with more compassion.
Yeah.
Actually recently I had, like, I didn't even realize it was a flare up until I was like within it, probably like a couple days into it. But he because now he knows that there is an underlying condition that can cause these types of things to happen to me. um it was just more there was more compassion towards her rather than like, what what is wrong with you, like, why do you just want to sleep all day? It's like, okay, I know what's happening and I will take care of you the way that you need to be taken care of. So it did help a lot. And I think just by understanding what was going on with me, and again going back to feeling empowered, it was just like knowing that there are things that I can take care of, to feel better both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
So that translated into other relationships as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, any final thoughts, any final things you want to say to the women out there with autoimmune disease that hasn't been said yet?
You need this program. You
Yeah.
need to do it right now.
Wow.
It's true, really. But no, just like I keep saying, take action now, because your life can get better. So if you are feeling that sense of despair and hopelessness, just realize that it doesn't have to be like that forever. You have the power to take control of your situation, and if you choose to do that, you definitely can heal. Your life can be everything that you want it to be.
Yeah. How about you, Rabia? Anything you want to say finally?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I would recommend this program to anyone who is facing any sort of thyroid autoimmune conditions, anything. Um, the difference that you will feel is significant. And if you feel like there's nothing else that will help or you don't know what to do, it's just all overwhelming. There's like a step by step. Here are actionable things that you can do. There's a lot more that's in your control. And I think when you take that control, you'll feel more empowered and you will be able to live your best life and be there for first and foremost yourself. Feel better in your own skin and feel better in your own life, and then that will then filter on into your other relationships with your spouse or your family, friends, and just living a better life. And everybody wants to live a better life. And if this is the one factor that is holding you back from doing that, just follow this program and you will feel it. You'll see it, and you'll be in a better place and feel more empowered.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you both for being here. Really means a lot.
You're welcome.
I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of women who are struggling, and they need to hear what you guys have been through, but you came out of it alive and you're kicking ass.
Well, thank you, Jay, for all of your help and support and guidance.
My pleasure.
We wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right. Awesome, guys. All right.